It's a good deal.
The drops are back. The pound is back. Welcome to the Poundcast.
Hello, Pound Puppies. This is DJ Doug Pound. Welcome to the Poundcast. I'm your guest, and today I Poundcast. I'm your guest, and today I Poundcast. I'm your guest, and today I Poundcast. And today I pound. And today I pound. And today I pound. And today I... Hello, Pound Puppies. This is DJ Doug Pound. Welcome to the Poundcast. I'm your guest, and today I pound. All right, that is of course another Poundcast theme remix by Zoid, one of our Patreon subscribers. Isn't that right, Brent?
That sounds really cool. That sounds really neat. I want to hear it. That was my first time hearing it, and I want to hear it with better conditions. So I'll be looking forward to that after we finish recording this.
Yeah, we'll put the full track at the end of the show. Without any talking over it. Daniel Zoid, a.k.a. Zoid, Daniel, made it. Thank you, Daniel. He's one of our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to support us on Patreon and listen to extended interviews of Poundcast, just go to patreon.com/Poundcast. If you want to support me specifically and have exclusive access to the Squirrel Report, which is it's a private Instagram account. Every day when I wake up, I make a little video every single day looking for squirrels in my backyard. And sometimes we talk about other stuff. You'll have access to that /Doug Pound. Today we have a great guest. We talked to Robbie Martin. He does a podcast with his sister Abby Martin, who's been on the show before, called Media Roots Radio. He also does music called Fluorescent Gray. And he made a documentary called A Very Heavy Agenda. And we talked, we had a great conversation. We went deep on politics, on the protests that are going on.
On cucking, everything.
We talk a lot about cucking. So we have a great show coming up. But first, Brent, I got to show you these bags that just came in. Look at this.
Hold on, dude. Show it again.
Look at all these bags. Perfect pepperoni. Look, Man has no flavor. And you know what? This could be my new favorite flavor, sweet chili teriyaki.
I kind of want to get in on that.
You got your classic smoked black pepper.
Yeah.
But Brent, you're not going to believe this. Look at this. Gochujang.
Wait, lift it up a little bit.
New flavors are here. New flavors.
What's that? That's just a new flavor. Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. It's from our sponsor, Louisville Vegan Jerky. This could be my new favorite flavor, Brent. Anyway.
Shoot, I got to try it.
You got to try it. You got to go to veganfoods.com and use the code word Poundcast, and you'll get 20% off. While you're locked in on a quarantine, you know, and then you got these curfews now keeping us home. We're at home more than ever. And what you want to do when you're home more than ever is get some
hormones. When you're hormones than ever,
you gotta be home more at LouisvilleVeganFoods.com. That's how we do it, Brent.
Man, I really hope that this video is not like just unwatchable because the way I'm receiving you is just, it's so choppy. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's good. It's all good.
No need. There is no need, Brent.
There is no need. There is no need. Never get married.
So anyway.
Those flavors look really exciting, and I want those new flavors, and I can't wait to try them myself by going to LouisvilleVeganFoods.com and using the code word Poundcast and getting 20% off.
And if you somehow can leave your house and go to the store, get them at Whole Foods, get it at Sprouts, you know, Target. If there's any Targets left, you might find it there. I don't know. Look, in times like these, you want to support a cool American company that make handbagged in the USA products like this. this is the kind of product you want to support in times like this. LouisvilleVeganFoods.com, code word Poundcast. Now let's get on with the show.
Let's get on with the show. Louisville Vegan Foods, we salute you. All right.
We salute. Get on with it. With Robbie.
I got one thing to plug real quick.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that this is I think on June 13th. It's not like completely confirmed, but just look out for it. I think by the time this episode comes out, tickets will be available. I'm going to do another live chat show, and it's on June 13th at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and this one will have Chase Bernstein and Andrew Michon, and I'm not sure who else, but maybe Frankie Quinones, but we'll see what happens.
And check this out. Let me plug one more thing. I got the Ask the Dad shirts. They're back in stock. Ask the Dad. You want to look cool in your quarantine? You want to look cool in your Zoom meetings? You want the Ask the Guy? All you got to do is go to dougpound.bigcartel.com. And that's how we do it at the Poundcast. And let's get on with the show.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, welcome to the Poundcast. Today we have my co-host, of course, Brent Weinbach. Welcome to the show, Brent. Welcome back. Welcome back onto the show, Brent.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
There you go. Trying to get the energy up here. Okay,
great to
we got Robbie.
Great. It's really great to be here.
There we go.
And I'm excited, and you guys got a nice, good Logan Paul energy that I like.
That's what I'm saying. And today we have Robbie Martin. He is the brother of Abby Martin, who has been on the Poundcast before. Did you know that, Brent?
Did I know that she'd been on the podcast before?
Well, did you know that he's her brother?
But of course, of course I did. Of course. I mean, they have the same name. It's like, who else could possibly have the same last name, as Abby? I know. Mean, they must be siblings. There's no other way.
Yeah. And I know Robbie from being the brother of Abby, and also I listen to their podcast, Media Roots Radio, which is describe your podcast. Politics. World politics.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's I guess I would describe
it. Intro was really shitty today. Sorry,
oh, it's fine. You were frozen for a second, so I didn't know.
Yeah, you were frozen.
My time to jump in. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a political podcast. We're pretty unfiltered since we're siblings. It's like we share a very similar headspace, so it's, I guess, if you like listening to people really unfiltered talking about politics, it's very, I would say it's very far left wing, but we also don't subscribe to a lot of, I guess, the generic sort of liberal paradigms that are happening right now. So I think, people looking for something a little different would enjoy it. And we've also been doing it, for like 10 years. So we've been doing it a lot longer, I guess, is what I'm saying, than a lot of these other sort of popular left podcasts have popped up around the year. So give myself a pat on the back there.
What I like about your
okay.
What about your podcast? I do listen to political podcasts that are left leaning, lefty ones, and you guys say stuff that doesn't agree with some of the views on your typical left political podcast. It's interesting to hear a different point of view on your show. It's almost like you want to hear the ultimate, like the real shit. You go to Media Roots. Media Roots Radio is like, it's like it feels like you're peeling the layers of the onion back as further than anyone is, or some, I don't know. That's just the feeling I get.
Alt left.
Alt left.
No,
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, I appreciate that. That's cool that you would say that, because like that is kind of what we're. I mean, I don't know if it's deliberately our intention, but we do try to, peel back the layer, or at least the framing. I think a lot of what people get sick of is that the political framing. A lot of these debates are had in like the same framework. And I'm not trying to draw a false equivalency, but like the left and the right, have their convenient sort of framings, and most discussions are had within those. So I guess I really enjoy trying to zoom out with Abby from like the typical framing and be like, well, what, like let's zoom out from this a little bit and actually like see what the hell's going on. Like all this stuff about the people are talking about China, like we're talking on Zoom right now, and there's all this talk right now that Zoom is this dangerous Chinese surveillance operation. It's like, well, why are we talking about this all of a sudden when Apple and Google and like all these companies are still here in this country? So like we like to examine things from that angle. It's like, why is the media all of a sudden talking about this or fixating on this? And we sort of examine it from that angle rather than having the debate within that framework. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
just a quick question: how many years apart are you from Abby, and who's older?
I'm older. I'm 3 years older.
Okay. And do you guys ever hardcore disagree with each other?
Yeah, I mean, there have been some times, yeah. I guess when you say hardcore, probably not. I mean,
that's what I mean, like a lot.
Never had like a falling out.
Yeah.
I mean, like we've had some strong disagreements on certain things, specific things, but I'd say 95% of the time we're like almost 100% aligned. So it's pretty rare.
Mm-hmm. What was an example of when you really disagreed on something? And when you disagree, do you kind of get heated with each other?
No, I mean, I think in general, Abby has sort of gravitated more towards sort of the socialist domestic aspect of politics in the last several years, and I have more stayed focused on like the geopolitical stuff. So we don't fully agree on that stuff, but we don't necessarily disagree either. It's not like we debate about, the merits of socialist, universal health care. Like I'm completely in agreement with things like universal health care and things like that. But I think that that's probably the main way that we differ is I probably wouldn't self-identify myself as a socialist. And I think that she probably would, but it's not even something we argue about. It's just something we sort of mutually like respect about each other, I guess, at this point.
So how, it's kind of interesting that like two siblings would be so kind of like specifically similar, like it's not like you both like basketball or something. It's like you both like this, you know what I mean? You're like rare birds and you're both into this same kind of thing. Like how did that develop? And do you have any other siblings?
No, I don't. That's like a really good question. I don't even know if I could come up with a good answer for that because I don't fully understand how it happened. It was just sort of like we both became sort of politically awoke. We weren't very political people, when we were in high school. And we both sort of became politically awoken at totally different times, and through totally different circumstances. And somehow we came out of that. And I think it was maybe the beginning of the Obama era. We were so frustrated with the way that people were sort of accepting of the fact that, Gitmo was going to still be open, that the Afghanistan war was going to, keep going. All these things were so frustrating to us that we just found ourselves constantly talking about them and how upsetting it was to us that like nobody else was talking about it. And I think that's sort of how it started really was it was almost like this anger and frustration where we felt really alone in our points of view, that we really we just felt isolated from a lot of the way the other liberals or leftists were thinking. And I think that that's sort of what's carried us honestly through it and how we sort of built up the momentum for it is like I don't know how that happened. Like, I think it just sort of organically happened that we both felt similarly disillusioned about similar things. I mean, like for me, my big political awakening was making a fake beheading video as a prank, and then the news actually broadcasting it as a real video and the FBI threatening to arrest me. That was my political awakening. Hers was totally different. So
wait, let's get into that.
So what was it about Obama? Because like, that you thought was you were like, why does everyone like this guy? Like, what was the first thing? So you don't like Obama? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I like Obama. I don't hate Obama. Like, I'm not, I think I'm one of those people who definitely thinks like all presidents are war criminals at some point in time. Like they become war criminals. They become, monsters in some capacity just based on being in the office. So I don't think it was, I think what it specifically was we were so outraged by the post 9/11 landscape, and it was so egregious to us that the only acceptable next president or next government after the Bush administration would be one that completely reversed everything that the Bush administration did, specifically like the, totally illegal things like torture, mass surveillance, warrantless surveillance, these illegal wars, the war on terror. So I think we became sort of idealistic, I guess you could say, and thought this is unacceptable. And that was sort of how we moved forward. It wasn't like a personal thing against Obama. It wasn't like we specifically hated him. It was just that he inherited, this horrific system that had kind of sprung up after 9/11. And we just wanted to see it stopped, desperately.
What, you had a question?
Yeah. What about this? So this video, this beheading video, what was that all about? How did that go?
It went pretty well. It was sort of weird. So
was
my
it a joke?
It was at first, yeah. Like I would say honestly, I was a pretty apolitical person. I didn't really care much about what was going on. I had already, had disagreements with the way that the government responded to 9/11, but it wasn't something I seriously was invested in. And my friend and I, when the Nick Berg video came out, I'm sure some of your listeners will remember this. It was a really big deal. It was, an American contractor that was beheaded on video. It was so outrageous to people here that it was sort of like, well, these people are animals, they're beheading, our people or whatever. It became almost amped up the Islamophobia and the racism here. And I remember my friend and I were just like, this video seems like it would be really easy to make a fake video like this and outrage people without them even, checking to see if it's real. It could be the choppiest, most low resolution video you've ever seen. And as long as someone thinks it's a Muslim beheading somebody, it'll outrage people. So, that was our sort of thinking. And we did it in within 12 hours in our garage, from the beginning of the inception of the idea to the finish edit of the video. We made it within 12 hours. We uploaded it on Kazaa and file sharing networks like that. And nothing happened. We got some uploads. Some people downloaded it from us and we thought nothing was going to happen from it. And then 3 months later, my mom calls me at 7 a.m. and she's like, quick, turn on the TV. Ben is on Fox News. And Ben was my friend who was the fake victim in the video. And by the time it had already been on Fox News, I had been asleep, that night. During the time when I was asleep, AP and Reuters already put out a wire report saying that an American soldier had been beheaded in Iraq, and they named my friend's name in the article. The craziest part to me was that no AP or Reuters reporters actually reached out to my friend, even though he gave his full name and phone number in the video.
Oh my God.
So
well, they figured he's dead, so they can't call him.
I guess so, yeah. So they literally broadcast this across the world. It was on the front page of several international newspapers. I still have copies of them saying that my friend was beheaded in Iraq. And until an independent stringer cameraman for AP decided to go to his apartment building and knock on his door, did that story get retracted, which was 8 hours after AP originally broadcast it. So, by the time I woke up, the media had already discovered it was a fake. But by the time I woke up, they were like, these motherfuckers need to be prosecuted. This is illegal what they did. The FBI is going to prosecute them. And I was like, what the hell? That was what I woke up to.
What year was this?
2004.
Interesting. Yeah. And what did the video show exactly? Did you had two of you were dressed up in hooded things or something like that, or what?
No, so our philosophy was the Nick Berg video was so ambiguous it showed so little that was our mentality making it, that if we show less, then people will use their own imagination. So we didn't show anybody that looked like a Muslim, no costumes like that, nothing. It was just against a drywall, section in my garage that was really messed up. Like there's water damage on it. There was like a wire hanging down, out of like a panel. And we put my friend in a lawn chair against the wall with his hands behind his back, wearing a white t-shirt. Didn't say his rank, didn't say anything about he's not a soldier. I should say that, make that clear. He's never served in the military. And it was just him in front of the chair, or on the chair with his hands behind his back. And the whole time, actually, the joke was that we were basically remaking the scene in Terminator 1 with Kyle Reese in the police station, saying, talking about the Terminator. So we wanted to position him, like in the thing with the white t-shirt, like the same framing as that shot in Terminator. And the outtakes for the video are just doing Terminator like lines the whole time. I don't think the FBI saw that, but so that was it. And he just literally says in the video, my name is, so-and-so. I'm an American soldier in Iraq, and this is what will happen to all of us if we stay here in this country. And it cuts to a scene of him lying on the ground, looking like he's already dead. And it's my hand holding a serrated, or not a serrated knife, but a pretty sharp knife, but holding it the reverse side. So it looks, in the camera, it looks like I'm using an actual sharp knife and slicing his neck. But I don't even use any fake blood, nothing. Like all I had to do was just apply enough pressure, I guess, with this knife on his neck. And it looks real enough, that it doesn't look like a fake knife, is what I'm saying.
Now, is your friend, is he still headed now to this day?
He's still headed, but he actually got fired from his job as a result of it. And that's why I'm not mentioning his name on this, because to this day, he's still worried that if this like comes back at him at his new place of employment, or any of his clients hear about it, that he'll get fired again. Like he's super cautious about me. He probably would be upset if he even knew I was talking about it.
So the other bodies were not really even in it. Just an arm. Your arm was sticking into the frame, but the rest of your body wasn't even in it.
No, nothing. It was just my arm. I don't even think there was any actual blood shown in the video at all. There might have been some like a puddle underneath of him that you could barely see. And then we purposely dithered the video, like we ran it through bad compression, multiple times just to make it look, like something you would shoot on a cell phone.
Now, let's talk about I have some questions about the politics of the day, because one more. I want to get off of this section.
Well, no, I'm just curious though. Did the FBI they raided you at a certain point, or what? Because
no. They interrogated me in what I can only describe as a very classic movie version of good cop, bad cop. It was almost like a cartoon. One of the FBI agents was dressed in like a suit, and the other one was dressed like in an FBI agent who's a moron would think like an undercover agent should dress. He almost had like a motorcycle outfit on or something. It was really weird. And nothing happened, no prosecution. And we were totally fine. Like it was just all threats. They were basically saying what we did was the same as screaming fire in a crowded theater. And that's why it was illegal. And that's obviously not true. So I think it was just all them blowing smoke. They wanted to scare people into thinking that what we did was illegal. They wanted people to think we did get prosecuted, but nothing happened to us, and it was totally legal what we did. And we didn't fraud any news networks directly. I think it was the key. We didn't send it to Fox and say this is a soldier being beheaded, and even that probably wouldn't be illegal. So I don't know.
And that's what got you into politics.
Well, yeah. I mean, my first political awakening was around the same time, because around when the Iraq War started, I was living in Chicago, and there was huge protests like there are now, and I remember marching and getting arrested, or almost did, like riot cops herding us into different, places of the city and like cornering us on these streets. And So now, like, what's happening now kind of reminds me of that, but it's like a different. I guess it's not much of. It's a different issue. It's not going to war with another country, but
When was this, Doug?
what was that? 2003.
Oh, okay, so it was an Iraq War protest. Okay.
Yeah, when Bush, right after 9/11, it was like after 9/11 when he was like, we got to go to Iraq, and the whole weapons of mass destruction. Like, that's when I started to realize, that they're making that up. They don't have evidence of that, and this is an unjust war. And I was like, it was clear as day to me that was an unjust war that we're getting into. Plus, I started hanging around really like lefty anarchist type people, but we never like looted or lit shit on fire. So what do you where are you at now? What city?
You cut off at the very end. What was the very last thing you said?
I think you said what
curious,
city?
Where are you staying now? Where are you?
I'm in Oakland, so I'm kind of like in the heart of some of the craziness. But I mean, I think what I see happening now, I think one of the things I'm focusing the most on right now is just that there seems to be a clear escalation among the police this time in a way that I have not seen since maybe like the Seattle, battle in Seattle. Cause like, I feel like that was a really pivotal moment, where, that's what the first time the public saw black bloc, saw protesters with gas masks, saw protesters with hammers, things like that. And the police response in that particular protest was so severe, that it became like a historical event.
What's the battle in Seattle?
I think it was like the World Trade Organization was doing and I don't remember exactly what kickstarted the protest, but it was like a massive outpouring of people, and the police crackdown was like extremely violent. Like the police were just beating up random bystanders, tear gassing people. A lot of people got severely injured. I think some people died. I'm not sure the details, but what I see happening now is possibly the next major escalation since that incident that I can remember happening, where I don't know how it's happening. And a lot of people are trying to say that, it's because Trump's rhetoric. Trump is saying that the media is the enemy of the people, and et cetera. I think that's probably part of it. But I think that there's something else happening here where Trump's government must be giving license to these governors, the National Guard, these state law enforcement officials to basically crack heads and to be like, you need to like punish these protesters in a harsher way than we've seen before. Like really teach them a lesson. I mean, this, the type of stuff you encountered, Doug, like almost getting arrested, being corralled, penned. I mean, that's like, it's almost like kid stuff compared to what we're seeing right now. I mean, like I just saw 2 videos today of police literally pepper spraying and paint and rubber bulleting people who are on their porches, like on their patios and porches. Like that's kind of new. Like, yeah, people get caught up in protest, who are just bystanders walking down the street. But I've never seen videos of police shooting people who are standing on their porches, filming them, like we're filming riot police from their home porch. It's quite alarming. And I think that's what I'm most worried about right now. I think the looting, that kind of stuff, burning, obviously like that kind of shit is awful. But I think that that's more sort of an organic thing. What we're seeing with the police right now, this is not an organic response to it. It's something that they've been, from the top down, they've been ordered to act harsher, crazier, more punitive. And that's what I'm mostly concerned about right now. I'm worried about where that's going to go. I mean, and we're really not that far away from the election. So like, how is this, is the general election even going to happen at this point? I mean, it's kind of, the question needs to be asked. I feel like shit's really gotten that weird.
So do you think that, I'm watching the videos too, and I'm seeing videos of people that are not black that are starting, vandalism and spray painting hashtag BLM, Black Lives Matter, and being confronted and being like, don't do that. It's going to reflect, like a black filming. Don't do that. So what's up with these people, like these agitators, they call them, right? Some people say that they're like Antifa, and some people say that they're
Opportunists.
Well, I think there's both, but some people are saying that they're like, it's like this sinister Proud Boy kind of like alt-right groups that are, inciting, like. Well, I guess my question is, let's break it down. Antifa is because Trump just said he wants to designate them as a terrorist organization, and if they are inciting this, if they're doing that shit just to like cause chaos and make this protest violent and destructive, then are they bad actors? Are they bad? And is that even a real organization? What is that?
Well, I mean, Antifa is not a real organization. It's not. There are some chapters of people like around the country who subscribe to Antifa, and they have little groups, but it is an autonomous, non-hierarchical. It's really not an organization by any real definition. It's sort of like a tradition. Now, Black Bloc is a little different, where I see some of the stuff you're talking about, Doug, as so like Antifa specifically to me means like anti-fascist activism. And some of those people employ Black Bloc tactics where they'll be like a peaceful protest, and all of a sudden a couple guys will run out in front of the protest and start hammering, breaking windows around the march. That for some reason, and I don't know if it's just the Black Bloc strategy or the tactic, that's at every protest I've ever been to. Like, it could be the most peaceful protest ever. And for some reason, and it's always been here in Oakland and the Bay Area, there'll always be a little group of people who will always want to escalate that situation. Now, I think at this point, what we're seeing is like that white girl you said was spray painting Black Lives Matter. I mean, I don't think, well, I saw that video too. I think that at this point, there's so much chaos that really everybody, it could be anybody at this point taking advantage of the chaos. There are definitely some members of the Black community, even here in Oakland, who, when Occupy happened, there was a march in front of Whole Foods, totally peaceful march, thousands of people, and like 4 Black Bloc guys dressed all in black. This is even before Antifa became like a household term. This is like 10 years ago. They just started throwing patio furniture through the windows of Whole Foods, like just totally spur of the moment, no warning. And the march didn't know what to do. They nobody from the march wanted to confront these guys. A guy from the Black community picked up like a baton from the ground. I think he picked a weapon up from one of the Black Bloc guys and tried to like fight them away from the Whole Foods. So this is a sort of a reoccurring thing that we see is there are these white agitators that do this stuff. Mostly they are white. But at the same time, I don't think that you can explain away what's going on right now by that. Like definitely some of this property destruction of police cars, especially, that stuff I think is actually very organic. The rage and the climate out there is, that energy is organic, but we're also seeing what you're talking about, where people are specifically agitating. So I think Trump is trying to skate this line right now where he doesn't want to lose the Black vote. He's trying to still pretend that he is pro-Black, into criminal justice reform. So I think the last thing he wants to do at this point is to racialize this and blame it on Black people. So he has to sort of blame it on Antifa, which, even if I look at all the data that I'm seeing, like it's such a small, I think, component to what's going on right now. I mean, sometimes Antifa has made things really light up, like the UC Berkeley Milo protests. I would say Antifa probably was responsible for most of that chaos that went down there. However, right now, I think it's gone completely beyond that point. Like this is an unstoppable sort of organic, I don't know, like just outpouring of energy and anger.
Yeah, it just seems like the George Floyd thing must have been the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess, huh?
Well, plus the pandemic being on top of that, I think, right? It's like,
yeah,
it almost seems like the protests and the riots treating them as maybe even separate things, are expressions of people having been cooped up in their house for so long and wanting to get outside and be active and, be around other people partially. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just everything. The tension is just so high. Everyone's already stressed out. And then this other shit goes down and it was just like ready to blow, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I've been in these protest situations where people get all juiced up and they're yelling, they're chanting. And these thugs just need to be put in jail that do this stuff. I'm just kidding. Anyway, I have some other questions about random political things.
These thugs need to get a knee to their neck on the ground. I don't mean to joke about that, but
it's not, I know. It's usually a joke. It just was usually a lighthearted, jokey podcast, but we got to go political in this one.
Well, I was trying to think of something to change, pick the mood up a little bit. I just decided to joke about George Floyd's death.
Well, I have another question about another George. What do you think about George Soros? Now, I keep seeing these memes about he's some kind of like super villain, Dr. Evil guy or something, but I don't really know what he does or anything about him. Now, a lot of the people on the right blame him as some kind of like villain. Like, what's up with that guy?
Well, it's interesting because, if you really want to look at a populist sort of mindset, I guess, and sort of look at it as being legitimate, you would think that if you were truly a populist, you would be railing against all forms of oligarchs and billionaires, who try to manipulate society. So it's interesting to me that the right has fixated so much on him specifically because there's, hundreds of people exactly like him or probably worse. And so I don't quite understand where that came from. I think because he's invested in like democratic causes, like he was one of the big money backers of, for example, MoveOn.org, things like that. So he's become just like a scapegoat of the right, a convenient scapegoat, just like in a sort of way, like Bill Gates has become a convenient scapegoat of this pandemic. A lot of conspiracy people think that he's somehow behind it or that this is all some conspiracy to make him money for his vaccine. I think that, and I'm not like a person who totally rejects conspiracy theories either. Like I'm actually like a lover of what I would describe as, I think I heard Tim Dillon describe it this way once, as like artisanal conspiracy theories. like actually like figuring out who all these people are and going after all of them, like instead of just one guy named George Soros. It's silly to me that the right or these conspiracy people fixate on one person and it just becomes this reductive narrative where it's just like a 30 seconds of hate or 5 minutes of hate, like 1984. It's just a cathartic thing where you could be like, fuck George Soros. Like, you don't even, well, what about him? Like, do you even know anything about him? And like, I think he's actually probably a piece of shit from what I know about him, but it is just a silly overfocus on George Soros. I mean, there's people like Robert Mercer who are funding, all these like alt-right celebrities right now. So they, they'll never call out someone like him. But it's also weird that George Soros is now funding an anti-war think tank called the Quincy Institute. I don't know if you've seen this. It's a strange thing where the Koch brothers and George Soros got together to fund the first major anti-war think tank in DC. And I'm skeptical about it because that just sounds weird to me. But so yeah, I guess that's my thoughts on Soros.
Just for the listeners and for myself, who is George Soros and what is he about and why are we talking about him?
If you're actually
asked,
where the hell does he
I'll say why I asked because I make the mistake of looking on Facebook sometimes and I do have some relatives who have sadly fallen into this the right wing sort of conservative conspiracy theory world and are starting to like repost things about George Soros funding. It doesn't matter what. I just see him come up as some kind of bad guy. And I hear other people that aren't necessarily conservative, they're conspiracy theorist people say George Soros is like, he's the guy behind it all or something, the puppet master controlling, but he's some kind of billionaire guy, right? And he funds left-wing causes. That's what I know, basically.
Okay, so he's an enemy to the conservatives.
Yes.
To right.
And what's interesting is that I think what you're seeing, Doug, is, and I've been like in conspiracy world since, like 2001. Like I've been checking this stuff out. It has definitely gotten a huge injection of like right-wing framing and ideology since Trump. I mean, it's gone exponential. Not saying that it wasn't a problem before in conspiracy world, but now it's like inescapable. You almost can't find, like, for example, it's hard to find a conspiracy right now that blames Trump or his administration for anything evil. Like, that's weird. Like conspiracies used to be sort of all encompassing, like the government's evil. Now it's like Trump is the good guy fighting the deep state. That's the conspiracy. I mean, that blows my mind that's sort of where we're at right now.
Yeah. So, can you find anything good about Trump? Because I know you're kind of, box with you're kind of more a free thinker, and a lot of conspiracy people that aren't necessarily like conservatives. I'm just thinking of like one podcast I've listened to. They would say they like when he does things they like. Now, and a lot of people say Trump's done better things than 8 Obamas could ever do. Now, what they don't say what, but do you know what people like about him?
Do you like anything about Trump?
Or do you like anything about him?
I mean, I have to admit that he is still entertaining, even if I loathe him. I mean, that's sort of the weird aspect of him, that I do think he has some weird magical quality that other presidents don't have in terms of the way he talks to people. Now, I don't say I like that the way he talks to people, because there's a lot of people who love him because they think that he talks straight. He says what I'm thinking, people will say. That's really fascinating to me. I think the only thing I like was maybe like when he first was running, that he just upset a lot of like the political class. So it was sort of fun to watch vicariously. Everybody forgets this, but the Republican Party hated him, when he was running. Ted Cruz hated it. Like, everybody hated him. So it was fascinating to me, and I had a certain appreciation for him causing all this chaos among his own party and DC and sort of the political class. But now that he's president, it's just, honestly, it's too scary and unsettling for me to like truly appreciate anything he's doing at this point.
Yeah, I think it is scary because, like, what you're talking about George Soros, about what about these other billionaires? Why they focus on him? It's this kind of like hypocrisy that I don't know too, but it just seems like way in like Trump followers, because he talks about like it's feeding back. Brent, is your mic? Did you move your mic?
Sorry, I unplugged it for a second because it was messing up. But sorry, I'm back. Go ahead.
Anyway, when I talk, so it's a little annoying. Anyway. Can you hear that too, Robbie? It's like a delay.
I'll just get some headphones, okay?
When I talk, it just repeats back to me, and it's like driving me nuts. Okay, what I was trying to say. It's so hard to do a podcast over Zoom. I can't wait till this pandemic is over and we can meet up in person. Then again, I guess you live in Oakland, so we're gonna have to do it this way. So here's what I'm trying to say. It's like all he talks about is fake news and giving news. It's like this weird, like dystopia. Don't you think?
You got garbled in the middle there.
It's like the hypocrisy is what I'm talking about. Like when he talks about all he says is CNN is fake news and that is fake news, but then he's getting flagged for Twitter for saying fake news, and half of the things he says are like lies or fake news. So it's just some kind of, it's just like, that's the most frustrating thing to me, is like this weird backwards like logic loop that we're in or something. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
No, yeah, absolutely. It's and what really frustrates me about that specifically is that like I have no love whatsoever for CNN. I mean, in fact, I would say CNN, put out just as much war propaganda like during the Iraq War as Fox News did. It's a really bad network. So I think that what bothers me about that is like he's playing on people's intuitive gut instinct to reject establishment narratives, to then put his own narrative in place that pushes his own agenda. It's a fascinating game that he plays because, like, I could see how people would be like, yeah, CNN is fake news. Like, fuck CNN. But it's like, well, it's all, I mean, really, in reality, like, all those 24-hour TV networks are fake news. I mean, if you want to, like, really honest, like, they're all fake news in some way. So, but what he does is he never mentions Fox, So it's a fascinating thing, and I think that all the people who are saying what he's doing is not dangerous, and CNN are whiners, like look at these hacks. I even see some people on the left taking that mentality, and I think that it is dangerous because it's not just CNN. Yeah, it's funny when you watch it happening maybe to CNN because they suck, but what if it happens to like people who are actually like good journalists? I mean, I don't think that's the part people understand, that this is not just about CNN. It's not just about these cartoonishly stupid 24-hour news channels. He'll call anything fake news that threatens him. That's the point. And, I mean, there is some legitimacy to the idea that the police are shooting at reporters right now totally recklessly without any concern for consequences, probably because, in part because Trump's rhetoric is basically saying that journalists are the enemy of the people. I mean, that has serious consequences. So, yeah, I mean, it's honestly crazy what he's done. And like that he would tweet out a meme like WWF thing of like a guy like tackling CNN and stuff. It's outrageous, but it's like, what? He's the president. I mean, I don't even know really more what I can say about it.
Yeah, he and does that stuff, but it's just like, it's like that his followers don't care. Like that's the scary part. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's a cult.
Like I feel like I don't know. Don't you feel like people on the left at least hold their leaders a little more, call them out on their bullshit? Like,
yeah. Well, that's what I think. I mean, even people on the right, like, I have never seen. I mean, this is a whole new level. It is. I really do think it's fair to describe his presidential fan base as a cult at this point. There's just no other explanation. I mean, the fact that so many people would be trying to come up with rational explanations for his bleach rant and say, no, he was actually referencing this scientific paper. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you're in a cult, dude. Just admit that he was winging it. This is like him just winging it, not talking nonsense. Like, that's to me is one of the scariest parts, is how it is a real cult at this point. Like, I'm not even talking about QAnon, but just QAnon would probably, like, if QAnon said that people needed to Jim Jones themselves to make America great again, there would be thousands of people committing mass suicide tomorrow. Like if QAnon said that they should do that.
Can you explain for the layman what QAnon is? Are these annoying questions? Because is this like the most annoying interview you've ever done because we're like so basic?
No, this is great. No, I love it. I mean, if you guys know what Pizzagate is, just imagine if Pizzagate went on for 2.5 years beyond Pizzagate and evolved into a crazy, all-encompassing conspiracy theory that involved like everybody.
What is Pizzagate?
Pizzagate is the sort of conspiracy that Hillary Clinton and the Clintons, John Podesta, and all these people in the Democratic Party molest and traffic children and actually also eat them and consume their brains to get adrenochrome because I guess it makes them high. Actually, the adrenochrome thing was established in QAnon. I don't think they went as far as saying that they sucked adrenochrome out of their brains, but Pizzagate definitely went into they are also murdering children. So it wasn't just sex with children. It was like sex and then murder.
Oh, and where's the pizza come into play? or a gate, in fact? Or it's like Heaven's Gate, I guess. Heaven's Gate, but then like, where's the pizza? Yeah.
The pizza came into play because I guess somebody decided that there were too many references to pizza in the leaked DNC and Podesta emails that came out in 2016. And because of that, a pizza parlor owner named James Alefantis in D.C., who did throw political fundraisers for high-profile Democrats, was sort of enmeshed in this and became the sort of ringleader of, well, this guy who runs this pizza shop clearly is behind some kind of organized, coded child sex ring. And that's what caused somebody, a gunman, to actually go to that pizza parlor in D.C. and bring a loaded gun inside. And I think he actually shot something. I don't know if he didn't shoot anybody, but he shot the gun inside the restaurant.
Comet ping pong.
Yeah, Comet ping pong.
You should have brought a ping pong paddle.
I know.
Flip mini pizzas with it.
Why would you call your pizza place Comet Ping Pong?
I know, right? It's obvious pedophilia.
Obviously, yeah. You don't name it Comet Ping Pong unless something really bad is going on.
Yeah.
Now, listening to your podcast, another follow-up question, Brent?
Well, okay,
we didn't figure out what QAnon is.
QAnon.
Yeah, QAnon. I kind of have an idea what it is, but you might be able to explain it better.
So QAnon started by this idea that there was a secret group of insiders in the U.S. government who are patriots. They are good members of the U.S. government who are fighting the deep state. They appointed Donald Trump secretly months before he announced being president and said, Donald Trump, we are secret patriots, part of this group inside the U.S. government, and we would like to appoint you to create a counter coup against Hillary Clinton and the deep state. So according to the Q philosophy or the theory that Donald Trump was not actually democratically elected, that he was chosen by a group of secret patriots who are trying to fight the deep state on the inside. And that the whole time, Donald Trump is basically an emissary of this secret group of Q clearance. I guess Q is the highest level of classification or something in the U.S. government. So all these people apparently are really high up, and Trump is going to be the savior to stop the deep state. Now, QAnon also has claimed that pretty much every political enemy of Donald Trump's is a pedophile of some form or another, even including Anderson Cooper. Anyone who insults Donald Trump, Bill Maher, for example. QAnon went after Bill Maher and implied that he was a pedophile. QAnon, went after Anderson Cooper and showed a picture of Anderson Cooper has a Honey Boo Boo cardboard cutout in his office, and QAnon posted it implying that Anderson Cooper molests children. So it just keeps going. It's like a snowball of anybody who's a political enemy of Donald Trump is either a pedophile or a Satanist, and it's just never ending to the point now where QAnon believers actually are waiting for something they call the storm, where they believe that at a certain point there will be mass arrests of all of these pedo elites, they call them, which they believe Tom Hanks, Spielberg, pretty much any celebrity who's on the left, they believe is a pedophile, and that they are actually going to be rounded up and sent to Gitmo at some point, and that's what the whole Trump presidency is leading towards, and that we need to trust the plan, which means that we need to just wait patiently for all these elites and celebrities to be arrested because they are secretly pedophiles, and they will all be sent to Gitmo. I mean, the whole thing, as I'm describing it to you now, it just sounds absolutely cartoonish, but this is actually what they believe. Like, And
people theorize
is there
that.
any evidence? Is there any evidence that, for example, Tom Hanks or Spielberg has any victims come forward? Is there any shred of evidence at all? Because I'm ready to believe. I'll send Hanks to Gitmo today.
Hanks might be into bestiality because of that movie Splash, you know.
Well, there you
Good
go.
point,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, and also QAnon. I thought it was basically people who were like gay people in the closet, because Q oftentimes stands for queer, and then they're anonymous. So it's like, okay, they're anonymously queer, they're in the closet, and they're waiting to come out.
No, they go to the meetings, like Alcoholics Anonymous.
Oh, they're trying to get off being queer. They're like trying to be sober from being queer, kind of a thing.
I mean, I don't mean to get gross, but like there is something very Freudian to me about this many conservatives being obsessed with pedophilia, but like pedophilia on the level of it's like children are being sacrificed, their brains are being like sucked out for their like adrenochrome.
What is adrenochrome, and is that a pizza topping, or what is that?
it's the drug
It's
from
it's a
Fear and
grandma
Loathing in
special
Las
sauce.
Vegas that like doesn't really exist, or that nobody actually does. And I guess it's like it's like you're just taking someone's adrenaline out of their body and like consuming it or something. I think that's what it is.
It's chi. You suck in their chi, get that
Now-
energy. But by the way, I was about to say QAnon.
Okay.
QAnon is not, so that's not a real thing. That's just what conspiracy theorists think is a thing.
Well, yeah, yes and no. The scary part is Trump is actively, and he has done it actually on a 5-fold increase since the pandemic. This is strange. So since COVID-19, 5 times increase of him promoting QAnon accounts on Twitter. That cannot be an accident. That's not him just randomly retweeting people. He knows exactly what he's doing. So even if the conspiracy is totally false, he is deliberately egging it on and trying to make people believe it, and like winking and nodding to it more than he ever has during his entire presidency right now. In fact, one of the weirdest things so far was QAnon. QAnon is an 8chan poster. I should mention that, first of all. They're an anonymous poster on 8chan. Someone asked QAnon on 8chan, can you have the president give us a sign that this is real? And QAnon said, or the person said, can the president say the word tippy top? 2 days later, president went out on a balcony on the White House with the Easter Bunny and said that the White House is great. Some people think it's so great they might even describe it as tippy top. Like, who the fuck says that? I mean, and one of the weird
So
things
it's real.
Well,
so there's a chance it's real.
It's real in the sense that he wants people to believe it's real.
There's
He
an 8
wants
chance
people
it's
to
worth.
think that everything QAnon talks about is real.
Oh, so he might have read that or something like that, or it might have got to him that somebody asked that, and then he maybe try to use that or something.
Who the hell knows?
How do you
Yeah,
get
no,
in? How do you get? Can you join QAnon? If you are, if I wanted to sign up for QAnon, how do I do that?
You got to.
I'm kind of being serious.
You got to fight the deep state. You got to get into military intelligence somehow. Climb the ranks.
If I was like an elite or whatever, or some inside guy, and I want to get in on QAnon, how do I do that? Or how do I infiltrate it, in fact? Like, say I had those privileges or access. Say I was in the CIA or something like that, and I'm a patriot. How do I get in? Is there a fee? Can I expedite the process?
That's a great question. I do wonder, actually, if any of the Mueller investigation looked at any of that at all, even secretly. Because if I was Mueller, I would be very alarmed that QAnon was even happening and that the president was egging it on and trying to figure out like what the fuck it actually was and who is doing it. Is there anybody on the inside part of it? I mean, like there has to be people in government who are like, what the hell is this? Like, I don't know. So it's one of the weirdest things ever, but it is, I mean, it's just an extension of his own cult. It's like an even crazier cult than the MAGA cult. I mean,
and
it's mostly boomers. They're not even like young people. They're mostly like boomer age people who are into it.
They should do a new hat that says "Make America QAnon."
Yeah.
I don't know.
There probably is that hat. I'm sure that hat is there. I was listening to your podcast, and you had a guest. He was a comedian. He has a book out. He's really funny. Cook?
Lee Camp.
Lee Camp.
Yeah.
And from the other people on the left, all I've heard was that mail-in ballots there's no evidence that there's any problem, and people on the left want mail-in ballots. But I heard he had a view that mail-in ballots are not good because what do you think about mail-in ballots, basically? He was saying that they're going to get thrown out in the trash, and they're not reliable source of voting. Well,
I mean, I think that in general, voter fraud is definitely a problem. And I think that Trump's whole take is that, it's going to be like a bunch of like illegals like voting, trying to commit voter fraud, or like individuals, voting twice. Like, this is the conservative sort of point of view on voter fraud, is that it'll be people trying to go in, vote twice, for like Obama or whatever. But I think the real issue is that voter fraud can happen like inside these actual precincts. I mean, for example, if you're in like a conservative precinct and there's not enough auditing being done, while someone's not looking, can throw away a stack of ballots that are voting for a candidate that they don't personally like. It doesn't even have to be a conspiracy from the top down. That definitely probably happens all the time. So mail-in ballots, I think, just add an extra layer of non-accountability. So there's just more chance that someone could, get rid of those votes without anybody knowing than there would be, say, versus an in-person voting, because, there's witnesses. I think even like at the voting booths, they actually have someone whose job is just to be like a witness to stand around to make sure no one messes with anything. So
do you think mail-in ballots should be a thing or should not be a thing?
Oh, I mean, I think they definitely should be a thing. I think that online voting should be a thing. I just don't know exactly how we would make sure that there's not like systematic fraud. I mean, I think systematic voter fraud and voter disenfranchisement is the real serious issue that we should be concerned about. And I don't know how that's already happening without mail-in ballots, without electronic voting machines, just with paper ballots. So I don't think it will. I don't know if I fully agree with Lee that it'll add like much more fraud. So I think people need to be given easier access to vote. I mean, I think that's like the primary important thing. So if we can figure out a way to do that, then.
What if we had mail-in ballots, but we had something like Postmates, like Vote Mates? So there's the person, and they you know what I mean? They're like the person that's the witness. Vote Mates.
Like a notary.
Be a good hire a notary. We could start a new industry. You
could.
Pretty successful stuff. Vote Mates.
Vote Mates.
I mean, the fact that we don't even have a mandatory day off for voting in this country still is outrageous. Like, just that alone is like, how is that even possible? That people have to figure out a way to take off work to vote.
That should be high on the list of bills to pass.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. It's so hard to vote. It's such a pain in the ass to vote. It's so like you have to like.
Well, that's why the lines are so long.
I'm not even sure where to go sometimes. It's like they move the locations around, and it's so ambiguous. Now, I guess we've almost got an hour, but we can go like maybe another 10 minutes or something, and then we'll do After Dark. Is that okay? Yes, that's okay. Brent, just say yeah or something.
Oh, you're asking me?
I'm asking. I don't know everybody. Whatever.
I thought you were asking.
I'm totally
Robbie.
good. Yeah.
Anyway.
Of course. I mean, yeah.
What's Russiagate, and is it BS?
I mean, I think it's definitely BS. And Abby and I think, had a unique insight on this because, she was working at RT since 2012, so we could see how insignificant in a way that the Russian influence, really actually was. So, I think there's two sides to it. So there's like, when you say Russiagate, are you just talking about the investigation on Donald Trump, or are you talking about sort of the whole idea of Russian disinformation as being some conspiracy to divide us?
I think it was the investigation on Donald Trump that
okay.
I thought it was interesting that you guys took the stance that was indeed kind of like BS.
Yes. And I think ultimately, so the fundamental aspect to Russiagate that I saw originally was that somehow Donald Trump encouraged Russia to hack the DNC and Democrats, and then somehow WikiLeaks accepted a leak from the Russian government and released it, sort of indirectly helping Donald Trump win the 2016 election. The key evidence points in that were never really proven to begin with. So I was always sort of the mindset that I don't believe this, but as long as they show proof that Russia hacked the DNC, that WikiLeaks got the emails from Russia, then I'll be like, okay, fine, that did happen. But, I waited years and, I started to get pretty convinced that they didn't really have this evidence that they were talking about because they didn't show it yet. And sort of here we are at the other side of this, the Mueller investigation's over. And now even the private security contractor, CrowdStrike, that originally said that they had proof that Russia hacked the DNC, is now saying that they never said that and that they were never able to prove that. So I see that as sort of the fundamental crux of all this. If that's the evidence that Russia hacked the DNC, and now they're even saying that that's not, we can't prove that, then it's kind of like it goes all out the window. All the other stuff about Trump's people having backdoor meetings with Russia, maybe some of that happened. Maybe, he wanted to try to do some backdoor deals with Russia, but I don't think that's really rises to the level of what, most people are describing. It's that Russia helped him throw the election. And I think ultimately that's just not true. And there's never been any evidence to suggest that. Now, what is unfortunate is that WikiLeaks decided to, not release anything about the Trump campaign. So that's like, even though I really appreciate WikiLeaks as an organization, I feel sort of like, I don't know if I agree with that decision. Like, they definitely could have leaked things about like Manafort and other people. There's hundreds of pages of text messages, for example, from Manafort, where he's even talking about cucking his own wife. Like, that should be on WikiLeaks right now. It's not. So that bugs me, but I'm not going to say WikiLeaks is part of some Russian conspiracy either. I just think that they made a choice to sort of try to punish Hillary Clinton and the Democrats in that election.
How do you what is cucking? How do you do that?
So for some reason, you guys are probably all aware of this, that the alt-right popularized the term cuck as an insult.
Yeah.
And it turns out that actually like several prominent members of the alt-right are in actual practicing cuckold enthusiasts, including Paul Manafort and Roger Stone, who both in text messages, well documented, wanted their partners to be gangbanged by a large, a well-hung black man. And that is okay,
that's what a cuck is when a black man
doesn't have to be
your wife.
It doesn't have to be African American. I think it's just the idea of someone else having sex with your wife and you sort
watch.
Of partaking in it. And it can all go through all different levels. Like it can even go like straight, all fully into homosexuality, but it sort of usually skates the line.
So the man, the cuck, so to speak, he watches his wife have sex with another man.
Yes, often that is.
That's called cucking. And
yes.
Okay, and so when you want to cuck your wife, it means that you want to watch your wife have sex with another man.
Yes, although now that you're saying it, I probably misspoke. And in fact, Paul Manafort in that situation is the cuck, and I guess she would be the cuck queen. I don't know what there is a
cuckold is the word is cuckold is the word, right? Let me look.
That's the correct word. It is actually a historical term that goes back, and it originally meant like women who have, like, who have a child that's not yours, or like that's from outside the marriage or something. Like, I think
where that comes from is the Cuckoo Bird. I'm not even joking. The
Are you
Cuckoo
serious?
Bird. Yeah, if you watch this movie, which I keep talking about, Vivarium, the first scene is a cuckoo bird going in a different nest and pushing out the babies, and then the other, it's a pair, like basically another bird raises a cuckoo bird, not its own mom.
Oh, interesting.
Huh. Oh, interesting. Okay, because I was wondering, cuck sounds like a chicken-related thing or something, and it sounds bird-like, and I thought, okay, where does that fit in? And you just told me. Very good, Doug. So
I'm looking it up.
Let's think about some of the text messages that you say. Paul Manafort, he was talking about cuck stuff in his text messages. What is he saying? Hey, baby, I want you to get me. I want to be a cuck on this Friday. I'm cucking. I'm cucking.
It was more like a mundane, like strategic planning the cuckold experiences. And I think in the text messages, his wife expressed being exhausted by the amount of sexual activity he was making her perform and the drugs he was actually trying to make her take. And I don't think it's described in the text messages what drugs they are, but I'm assuming ecstasy, GHB. I don't know what other drugs you would take during like a gangbang. But it's pretty detailed.
These people and these powerful, rich people, like I just watched the Epstein documentary. They're all just the most freaky freaks of all time, right? They're insatiable. They can't. They take it to this crazy level.
Have you guys ever tried cucking?
They gotta all be freaks.
You guys ever cuck?
Yeah.
Have you thought about cucking ever?
Oh, hell yeah.
In college, maybe, experimenting in college. Huh?
No, I'm the guy they bring in.
Yeah.
I'm the powerful.
You're the hold.
Yeah,
I'm the bigger, powerful, guy.
Uh-huh. So that's funny. That's interesting to think about Paul Manafort or whoever saying, he telling his wife, come on, baby, call me your cuck, or whatever. Just like, I want you to call me a cuck, and then I want you to suck that guy's dick and spit the jizz in my face.
Brett, we got to wrap it up because I have to.
No, that's a segue. That's a segue into After Dark right there.
No, but before we go into the bonus After Dark section, I want to mention that Robbie is a filmmaker, and there's a poster right behind him, A Very Heavy Agenda. That's one of your films. And you also make really cool music, which we didn't even talk about that on the After Dark, and that's called Fluorescent Gray. And yeah, I guess that's about it. Okay. Before we wrap it up, we should ask a couple more questions. Election's coming up. Who should we vote? Who do you want?
I was actually just. I was going to ask this, and I don't know if you would want to answer this on the, or if you want to save it or what, but. Yeah, I was going to say, who are you going to vote? Who are you going to vote for? If there isn't an election or whatever, who are you going to vote for? And how does that make you feel to vote for that person that you're going to vote for?
Ooh, I mean, I guess I'm not going to vote for either Biden or Trump. I can guarantee that.
Okay.
I'm lucky enough where I don't feel any of that pressure. I mean, I think California, I've never felt that pressure to have to vote for, lesser of two evils because California is going to somehow go Republican. So, I mean, I just
wait a second. California's going to go Republican.
What the hell?
California is going to go.
I think he was saying
that's the curfew warnings are coming in, right?
Curfew. Yep.
And
that's normal.
It's
funny. It's funny how
it gets earlier every day.
Right, and it's funny how we're even more on lockdown now. It's just we're on lockdown to some degree, and now it's even more hardcore. And anyway,
it's nuts, dude. I mean, I don't know how big LA County is, but there's lockdown for the entire Alameda County. Alameda County is like gigantic. It's like tons of suburbs. It's insane.
Today in Santa Monica, curfew was 1 p.m.
What?
1 p.m. And I think even Long Beach too.
Jesus.
But today in LA County, it's 5 o'clock.
Wow.
It's like daytime. It gets dark at like 8:30.
Well, it was 4 o'clock yesterday, wasn't it? The curfew.
It was
Hollywood.
Cuckoo o'clock.
Well, a cuck. It's 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
I just want to say I just feel bad for anyone who feels that they have to vote for Joe Biden, because I can't remember the last time we had a choice this bad for a Democrat. I mean, he's literally the worst candidate for the Democratic presidential race that I have ever seen in my lifetime.
Did you like Andrew Yang?
No, I did not care for him. I didn't. I think I've gotten to the point where I don't like any politicians anymore. Like even like all this squad, that people were like, oh, they're the first like real lefties, like Ilhan Omar. Like at first I liked her, I wanted to root for her, and then she just started saying things on Twitter about Iran and how evil they were that I just I can't do this anymore. I can't be behind politicians anymore.
Who are you going to vote for then, or do you not want to say?
I'll probably vote for like the Socialist Party candidate, Gloria La Riva, because she's the only one that I can stomach, honestly, right now. Like the Green Party is a mess. I used to be a libertarian back in the day, and I would vote libertarian. And, even though I'm not anymore, seeing the way that party has evolved is kind of embarrassing. Like Gary Johnson, these people are terrible, So
Since you're not going to vote for Trump or Biden, just out of curiosity, why do you even vote at all? Just for the fun of it or something?
Yeah,
no.
I mean, that's a good point. No, I mean, like,
if he likes a candidate, if he likes the candidate, you should let them get a number, get his number, right?
Okay.
Yeah, no, but Brad,
that's what I'm wondering.
I mean, I think that's a valid point. It really has not really an effect in terms of the general election. I think it's more important. The reason I vote is mostly just more for local issues and stuff, because those are always on the ballot. Sure. So I feel compelled for those reasons, but even that's just super confusing. Like, you ever try reading the counter argument? Like, you look at the ballot and it's like counter argument, like for and against, and it's like, what the fuck do I do? Like, it's just, I don't know. I know I'm supposed to give you guys answers, but I don't have.
That's okay. Everything's such a mess. It's so confusing, and it gets more. It's just everything keeps getting more and more, to me. And like, it's why I like listening to your show, because it really helps. I don't know. You guys just think you just really you put a lot of thought into your views on stuff, and I appreciate that. And
well, thanks, man.
Before we go, can you want to plug your stuff?
Sure.
Your movie, your music, and
sure. You can check out my movie, A Very Heavy Agenda. It's a 3-part documentary, 7.5 hours long. So it's probably good if you're looking for something to binge watch right now. You can watch it online at averyheavyagenda.com. I also sell DVDs of it. They're not in high definition, so I would recommend people watch it online. And then I also did an original soundtrack for it, and you could check out that and the rest of my music at I think it's I want to say bandcamp.fluorescent-gray.com, or just go to my Twitter page at Fluorescent Gray, and you could see links there.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Robbie. And I have so many more questions, because I could talk about this stuff for hours and days. And now that we have the curfew, let's just go all night.
I know. Why not?
Well,
thanks
yeah.
for having me on, you guys.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. And if you want to support us and you want to listen to the extended interviews, go to patreon.com/poundcast. And we'll see you next week. Peace.
It's a good deal. The drops are back. The pound is back. Welcome to the Poundcast.
Hello, Pound Puppies. This is DJ Doug Pound. Welcome to the Poundcast. I'm your guest, and today at Poundcast.